In the underground black market of Chin City, masked and hooded people move among neon signs and dark passageways. After that, he informed the boss about his desire to sell the kidney and cornea, and these items were marked on the list. The doctor warned the patient that he had sold almost all the organs and that selling another kidney would lead to death in 2 days. When he says that he is ready to do anything to save his seriously ill sister, he assures that everything is fine with him. A man with a knife threatens without restraint, and the one lying on the table confirms his courage. He then hides the injured person around the corner, who complains of knee and hip pain, while others stand nearby. He lies on the floor blindfolded, wounded, and thinks it's good that no one followed him. This is followed by the word regenerate on the screen. He feels his body begin to regenerate, and the glowing areas of the skin quickly recover. In the meantime, he claims that with 30,000 and previous savings, it will be enough for the ritual of transferring the work. He goes into a narrow alley and mockingly says that he made up a story about a sick sister and a dying mother. And then Yahello, a transmigrant, claims that he is an orphan without a sick sister. He walks past a group of people outside a building with a Chinese inscription, reflecting on the world around him. At the same time, in the ruined city, surrounded by many underground worlds, there are huge creatures with energy attacks and demons. Sirota realized that it was difficult to survive here until he discovered his unique ability. In addition, it activates the body's regeneration ability, allowing it to fully recover and regenerate missing organs or limbs in a matter of minutes. He reveals that he sold his organs to save 100,000 yen for the ritual of class change and power awakening, surrounded by his allies. In addition, a sign with the inscription, "Shelter," appears against the background of the whirlwind. The hero understands that this is the only way to resist in a dangerous world and protect his loved ones. He points a thumbs up against the background of the statue and says that today is an important day for the class transfer ritual. In the end, they were surprised by Yahello's appearance and discussed how he, as a poor student, was able to afford to participate in the transmission ritual. He explained to Wang that in order to participate in the translation ritual, he had to take out a loan for a class transfer, and she was surprised by this decision. After which, he says that having chosen a useless profession, she will have to work all her life to pay off the debt, to which she listens with alarm. She asks him to do his best and hurry up, as the ritual of transferring classes is about to begin, to which he thanks her. As he stands in front of a huge creature, watching an army of shadow figures on a green field, the man with the beard calls for the next participant. They then discuss Gao Dai from the 5th grade, noting that his family is not rich, and one of them complains that the tuition fees were very painful. The director asked Ivanov to put his hand on the ball and relax. Ivanov agreed. Following this, the man announced that it was the support class and the A rank of a poultry farmer, and the crowd was surprised and expressed doubts about the choice of profession. The man with the beard says that you shouldn't be upset about the support class, because there are only useless people, not useless classes. Meanwhile, she called for the next one, saying "next," as she prepared to continue. Several people support Nini, expressing admiration and faith in her success. And then the old man wished good luck to Juga Ningyi, to which she thanked him, calling him the headmaster. The hand directs a pillar of fire, which transforms into a flaming phoenix rising from a bright ball of light. At the same time, there was an SSS rank fire mage standing in front of them. He hoped that Qing Academy would now be able to be proud of itself. A group of boys discussed that the goddess Nini has awakened the SSS class and become a fire mage, causing one of them to feel defeated and deprived of the right to admire her. In addition, a fire-level SSS mage is capable of matching an entire army. He believes that this guy is very lucky. The principal stressed the importance of moving to the SSS classroom for the school and discussed the training plan, to which she agreed. In addition, the facilitator announces the next participant, Yahello. One of the attendees is surprised to see him show up when he learns that he has received a student loan for his studies. He stated that he would not become her minor character while she left with her back turned. In the end, he says that he was waiting for this moment to either live a miserable life or defy fate. He stated that it all boiled down to this, and pointed his hand towards the glowing orb, preparing for action. After that, A huge, glowing dragon appears in the sky above the city, emitting powerful energy and causing destruction. He sees a glowing silhouette from which an ice dragon emerges, surrounded by blue energy. When a group of people are surprised by the guy's luck, one of them calls it an anomaly, and the woman wonders if Yahello could also be an SSSS class. He asks the director if what is happening is something special, and he tries to comprehend the situation in amazement. The red-robed man then called Yahello the Forbidden Curse Master. He said that the Academy was proud of him, and Yahello was surprised by the title. The man in red tells the other that he is facing an SSS-level expert. Following this, a group of men discuss that the Forbidden Curse Master is dying young, and that this profession is considered inferior due to his short life. A woman with red hair believes that the master and his student are doomed due to interfering with the class change, expressing regret. Meanwhile, he stands in the dark, surrounded by voices that mock his class and fate, calling him worthless and doomed. The headmaster praised Yahello but warned about the fate of the curse masters. Yahello asked if it was true that they were dying before the age of 25, to which he was told about the importance of living a vibrant life. And then he thanks the director and expresses a desire to glorify the school. The headmaster praises him and offers a special training session for him and Ju. He thanks the headmaster and says with a grin that cursed masters die young, but this does not concern his immortality. At the same time, several people climb the stairs to a large building against the sunset sky. He admitted that he was tired and offered to go home to rest while another man followed him. In addition, he turns around at the voice that calls him Yahello's classmate. She offered to team up, explaining that the more the master fought, the faster he died, and did not want him to die too quickly, since they were classmates. In addition, he explains that it was about cooperation, but thanks for the offer and refuses. He called her a stubborn idiot going to her death. She answered, "Let him do as he wants," and left. As a result, he walks along the path and says that it was strange. The guys discuss that this is their classmate with an SSS rating who works for the young master G. After that, he goes home because of Juga Xiao's words, believing that women bring problems. The three guys mock Yahello, offering him a job as a security guard at G Corp and urging him to recognize their authority. Yahello stands in front of them, listening to them. When he reveals that the hero will be working at G Corp tomorrow, he taunts him, saying that the money he earns can buy incense for the deceased orphanage. He stands in front of a burning building, hears orders to kneel, and realizes that orphans do not deserve a family, so they are all dead. Then he stands in the crowd, his eyes glowing with bright energy. He raises his hand with blue flames and says that he was forced to act. The others ask in shock if he is going to cast a forbidden curse and if he wants to die. Following this, he sharply stated that he would not allow discussing his dead family, while the three men flew back from a strong blow. The three men reach out to Yahello, asking if he has gone mad and if he really had to use the forbidden curse. Meanwhile, he reaches out and challenges his opponent to a fight, saying, "Come here." A group of men runs up the stairs. One of them shouts that Yahello has gone mad and needs help. The other thinks he is a madman who wants to die. And then he says it's a pile of garbage that escaped in just one move while digging through his backpack. He stands near a dented spot on the ground and complains that his duodenum is burned. At the same time, she condemns Yahello for being willing to risk his life over insults and believes that without the power of the curse, he won't succeed. A group of people stand outside the building at night, watching the illuminated windows, and hear sounds that attract their attention. In addition, he puts down his bag and thinks that he is finally home. He claims that the damage to different organs causes different types of lightning, and asks if it will die, summoning the most powerful thunder of chaos. In addition, he lies on the couch and complains of dizziness and the side effects of body restoration, admitting that he is very tired. The young man demands that his father avenge him, and he reminds him what he was taught. As a result, he argues that killing an SSS curse user is too risky and unprofitable, and the use of forbidden spells due to grievances indicates emotional instability. He reminds Linyu that she comes from a poor family and their clan is rich, and advises her to use her advantage to attack the enemy's weak point. After that, A group of people heads to the building with a banner inviting teachers and students to take part in the exam at Ching Academy. He yawns and says that he is still sleepy. The others discuss that it is Ye Ling who switched to using curses and taught Jilin a lesson. When he asked if the other had breakfast, offering breakfast, to which he replied in surprise. He suspects that they are trying to poison him, and the other explains that it is a gift as a sign of gratitude. Then they discuss gratitude. One talks about being struck by lightning. The other notes that his appearance made him realize the loss of time. He knelt down and admitted that he wanted to call his interlocutor his older brother. After that, one asks if he hit him too hard in the head, and the other says that after yesterday's fight, he thought about it and wants to become better, finding an example to follow. He demands tuition fees, and the other asks for an account number to transfer funds and confirms understanding. In the meantime, he offers to transfer $2 million in the first semester. The other is surprised, but the first one claims that it is not expensive and is going to ask his father to send the money. The crowd listens to the announcement of the start of the challenge in the Novice Secret World, which is now open. And then, all the candidates from each academy would be able to perform well while watching the swirling portal in the ground. A group of people shouts, "Victory!" against the background of the crowd. At the same time, the three men discuss two students from Ching who have earned SSS class professions, expressing irritation and admiration for their success. He asked why everyone was silent. In addition, 4 men say goodbye. One specializes in combat, the other goes on business at school. The third warns not to be conceited. A voice commands participants to enter the field, where the pieces move through a portal against the background of the sky and luminous lines. In addition, he suggests that Yelin team up, but she refuses, thanking her. She called him arrogant and said that she would not interfere if he was so eager to die early. As a result, he flies, surrounded by luminous lines, directing his hand forward and bright lightning scatters around. He found himself in the forest and was surprised by the lack of people, assuming that it was a random teleporter. After that, he heard a growl and saw the beast attack, but then said that it was just a small kitten. He tests the forbidden spell, releases an energy strike, destroys the leopard, and gains experience. When Gareth discovered the lack of experience for a powerful spell, he realized that killing too many enemies to level up was not an option. You will have to look for another way. Loud roars are heard in the forest. He then screams in pain due to the wound and hopes that this fight will bring him a lot of experience. In the photo, the moment of landing of the foot in the sneaker on the grass. Following this, he prepares to apply a newly learned forbidden curse. It activates the curse, Destructive Stream, with a bright aura and a glowing skull. Meanwhile, he activates the forbidden curse and is sure that with the strength and spirit enhanced, even a level 10 monster will not be able to withstand his powerful lightning strike. 3 fighters fight a giant snake using magical attacks and weapons, creating energy blasts. And then he notices that the body is aging rapidly and explains that he must stop using the forbidden curse of rebirth in order not to reveal his immortal essence. He commands to continue, ignoring the conservation of strength, and then screams for sacrifice as he watches the other person rush into the light. At the same time, he lands on the ground, surrounded by glowing magical symbols. The energy spell, Forbidden Curse, Doom's End Fury, is demonstrated, summoning a destructive vortex of light and lightning. In addition, against the background of the multicolored sky, you can see the silhouettes of creatures with an indication of the monsters killed and the experience gained for them. He has reached the 3rd level and received a new forbidden curse. Hellfire scorches the sky. In addition, she stands at the edge of the forest, looking at the many bodies scattered on the ground. She is surprised and asks what happened. She ends up noticing a light and asks if it's hellfire. She is surprised by the fluctuations of fire and believes that there should be no other fire user in Ching besides her. After that, she notices a fire trail and decides to find out the identity of its creator. The fire is burning. Meat is roasting on spits. As he sits by a campfire in the forest, he says that the meat of the 3-eyed demon is delicious, and he needs to eat more because he has expended a lot of energy. He satisfies his hunger and goes to distant places to hunt monsters. He then asked if it was Ye Lin after noticing a silhouette in the forest, and she was surprised to hear a voice. The woman asked Yahello what he was doing here, and he thought how frustrating it was to meet her by chance and not let him reveal his secret. After that, he explained that he was cooking food, and she reminded him that the Forbidden Caster class was not suitable for solo leveling. She refused to merge. She was busy. He is disappointed. Meanwhile, he doubts the woman's logic and her intelligence. She asks if anyone else has seen the passers-by, describing him as a powerful master of fire control. And then he remembered the word hellfire, complained that he would not be able to use the spell anymore because of the woman, and was surprised by the handsome man. She blames Yahello for the delay that prevented her from catching up to the owner of the hellfire. At the same time, she turned around and asked who it was when she saw the hand approaching. She notices a monster approaching and exclaims that it is level 8 of the Dragon Blood Behemoth. In addition, she notices the appearance of an 8th level monster and admits that she will not be able to defeat it. She asks where Yahello is and claims that he ran away. In addition, she unleashes a barrage of fire, attacking enemies with projectiles. The monster is subjected to fire blows and emits a growl when one of the flashes falls down. As a result, the monster falls on a woman with long hair. She fights back, falling backwards. She declares that she will fight to the end, releasing an energy blast from her hands. After that, a fiery stream bursts out of the creature's mouth, she exclaimed when she saw the fireball next to her. When it exploded, it flew backwards, letting out a scream. A huge monster appears in the forest, spewing fire from its mouth, creating flames at its feet. She then breathes heavily and admits her mistake, believing that Dragonborn's level 8 is invincible. A figure with hair stands in front of a fiery whirlwind. This is followed by a powerful explosion with a bright red light and smoke, but the characters are not visible. She notices that Dragonborn Behemoth's level 8 was instantly killed and calls it Hellfire. Meanwhile, she, sitting on the ground, confessed that it was he who saved her. She thanks a classmate for saving his life and asks his name. He begins to answer. Lingye then explained the origin of his name as he stood in front of the trees with flames all around. He holds back the pain with effort by touching the injured lip. At the same time, she asks Lingye what school he is from and says that she wants to properly thank him for saving him. He refused gratitude. She said it was just help. In addition, the injured woman asks Lingye to wait for him to get up. He warns not to follow him because of the danger and advises you to dress properly first. In addition, she falls down with the sound of falling. She is lying on the ground. A frightened silhouette appears behind her, which exclaims. As a result, Lingye shouts, promising to catch up with him and one day proudly stand next to him. He breathed a sigh of relief and said that she wouldn't cling to him now, calling her stupid while the other was floating in the air with a fiery aura. After that, he said that he had spent time on her and it was time to hurry up to level up. He contemplates a new forbidden curse, sacrificing 2.5 years of his life to avoid fatal injury, and considers this skill to be almost divine, despite the short life of the caster. When he explains that he can neutralize the fatal blow and use curses that require the sacrifice of a heart or head, he is delighted and says it's just great. Then he is happy to be able to level up quickly without restrictions. He is sure that no one will be able to stop him. The crowd discusses that today is the last day of the test, and one of them hopes that his child will reach the 8th level. Following this, one man greets old friends in the morning, and another says that level is more important than class rank, and a third doubts the importance of the 2 SSS-ranked job changers. The 3 men discuss the Qingcheng Secret Realm test record, and one of them claims that his disciple will be able to beat it. Meanwhile, 4 men discuss the exquisite taste of the directors, one of them noting their sophistication. Zhu Qiangxin invited us to join in the fun. The others recognized him as the chief astrologer of Qingcheng and expressed the joy of the meeting. And then one man asked the other if Nini was causing any problems, and he replied that the father loved his daughter very much, and she was the pride of Qingcheng Academy. Someone leaves the portal, attracting the attention of others. At the same time, he said that the time was not up yet, and another suggested that if they are coming out now, they may have been injured. She walks through the grass with her eyes closed. In addition, he greeted the headmaster and inquired about Nini's level, clarifying that Zhuge Ni's time had not yet expired. She has reached level 12 as a fire mage, and an inscription with her name and level appears above her. In addition, the four men discuss the achievement of Zhu Ni, who reached level 12 and broke the record. He believes that she is stubborn and could have reached level 13, while she believes that it is boring due to the long search for monsters and the small reward. In the end, he came out specifically to find Lin Ya and warned that he would not leave this time. He sneezed against the background of the forest. After that, he stands in the dark forest and notices that it is not cold here, surprised by the sudden sneeze and wondering if he is cursed. He notices that even the level 10 monsters have disappeared, and wonders if he has overdone the leveling. When he decides to expand the search area, he tries a new forbidden curse that increases agility at the expense of the organ sacrifice for an hour. He uses the forbidden spell Instant Dance of Damnation, urging him to sacrifice a kidney. Then he notices that the speed is 10 times higher than usual. A level 50 assassin wouldn't be able to move so fast. He shouted, "Forward!" and soared into the air, creating a vortex of energy above the ground. After that, he rushes over the forest, leaving glowing footprints behind him, and trees and leaves scatter around. 3 red-eyed creatures soar into the night sky above the forest, making a loud sound. Meanwhile, he stated that the 3-headed assault mantis was entirely his. He casts the spell Bladder Victim, surrounded by energy and lightning. And then, in the background of the explosion and lightning, the inscription Forbidden Spell Ashen Fierce Thunder appears, symbolizing the use of a forbidden spell. He got out of the portal and admitted that he almost died there, and she was standing nearby, watching the people come out of it. At the same time, Lingye didn't appear, causing surprise. He announces that there are 5 minutes left until the end of the test and asks those who have completed the test to return to the allotted area, while the other notes Zhuge Ni's record and discusses the students of Qingcheng School. In addition, he announced that there were 3 minutes left until the end of the test, and she replied that she couldn't let Lin Ye pass because she was at the entrance all the time. She remarked that this figure should be hers. In addition, Yelin reported that the time was up and asked if there was a problem. She accused him of cowardice. He refused to talk and ordered him to stay away. As a result, he asked what was wrong with her, calling her psychotic. The director greets Yelin and asks for his level. He replies that he has reached the 16th level of a forbidden spellcaster. Afterwards, the characters discuss the impossibility of reaching level 16 in the secret realm of rookies. Test, being surprised that the previous record was only level 11. The teacher informs the group that it takes 120,000 XP to level up from level 1 to 16, which is equivalent to killing 1,200 level 10 monsters. This causes bewilderment among students. When the old man praised Yelin for his achievements and called him the pride of the academy, the other man remarked that it was truly remarkable. The woman says that level 16 is normal for a master of forbidden curses, and the man agrees. Several people then discuss the madness of Yelin, who risks his life for the sake of quickly leveling up in fame, and one of them asks to give him some time for fame. The man accuses Yelin of deceiving for the sake of the school's honor, and Yelin denies and defends the principal's integrity, claiming that he is not joking with the lives of students. After that, he reveals that he grew up in a poor family and wants to prove his ability to succeed, regardless of the difficulties. The man praises Yelin's ambition and confirms that he is the best student in the Privy Newbie Secret Realm test, and the woman listens in surprise. Meanwhile, the man introduced himself to student Yelin as Zhu Qianxing, Zhu Ni's father, and offered to contact him in the future if necessary. She thinks that Lin Ya's level is not lower than Yeling's, and he wonders who the talented Lin Ya is. And then the man asked if anyone knew Lin Ye. One replied that he had not heard of such a student, and the other assured that Lin Ye would prove everything, and at the same time mentally advised the woman to wait. Yeling said that he would leave if there was nothing else, and the headmaster and Zhuju wished him to rest before the exam in 3 days. At the same time, they are standing in front of a glowing portal. One reports that the test is over, and the other blames Yelin for Ling Ye's escape. Nini convinces her father of Ling Ye's genius in saving her life. Her father doubts and asks why she went out early to get to know him. In addition, he asked Nini if Yeling could be the Ling she was looking for, to which she replied in the affirmative. She retorts to her father that Lin Ye had a better command of the fire element and was not afraid of the dragon's blood, and he agrees with her arguments. In addition, he suddenly sneezed, which caused him surprise and discomfort. He lies on the couch and accuses Juga Ni of duplicity. As a result, he heard a knock on the door and wondered who could have come to look for him. He asked who the young man at the door was looking for, and he replied that he was the manager of the Wang Company and had found the student Yi Ling. After that, he asked how he could help, and another invited him to advertise the company's product, promising a generous reward. He asks about the amount of the fee, and the interlocutor points to the amount, saying that it is at least this. When a man in a suit calls out the amount of 3 million, another holding a bottle listens carefully and confirms the figure. He exclaimed the price of 3 million and explained that the remedy improves the brain, intelligence, and cell regeneration, promising rejuvenation. He then examines the jar of medicine and thinks it's worth a few of his kidneys, and says the company guarantees a 10-fold refund if the drug isn't effective. He tastes the drink and says that the taste is acceptable and sweet, but there is something unusual about it. Following this, he reports that he is feeling a little dizzy. The man reports on the phone that one bottle has gone off and prepares backup plans, while the other agrees to bring the right person. Meanwhile, 2 men sit by the fire at night. One of them says that he brought a student, but does not understand why he should go so far after him. A man in a light-colored suit orders the guard not to let anyone in without his permission, to which he agrees, standing next to a man lying on the ground. And then he reveals that all the organs that the child sold to him have completely regenerated, calling it an incredible event. He covered his face with his hand and said that he could master the secret of organ regeneration with this child. At the same time, he says that soon the interlocutor will have the highest power and wealth, before which even the most powerful people will bow. He turned around and said, In addition, he wonders how the other can be awake, and he replies that his sleeping pills usually keep even an elephant unconscious for 6 hours. He asked how he was found. In addition, he holds a blade, threatens, and demands to surrender, promising not to take away limbs, while noting that the interlocutor has also reached level 20. He acts carefully so as not to cause noise, as the fire can burn the place. There he ends up explaining that the forbidden curse, eternal freezing gaze, sacrifices an eye to freeze everything in sight before going blind. He asks what's going on and what kind of spell it is, as ice crystals and colorful hazes appear around them. After that, one of them tries to cut through the ice, not believing in failure, and the other is shocked by the impossibility of losing to a weaker opponent and calls him a monster. He asks who else knows about his organ regeneration. The interlocutor from the crystals replies that he will not tell anyone. When he says that he will believe the interlocutor at the moment and promises to do everything quickly, the man gets hit in the face and exclaims. Then he breaks the glass. A dark shadow with glowing eyes appears behind him. He stands with a knife in his hand and says that after drinking the mud, it is better to sacrifice his stomach first, while the wounded man is lying nearby. Following this, 3 silhouettes appear among the falling luminous columns. He demands to name the boss, threatening, and the other begs not to kill and says that he cannot tell. Meanwhile, he threatens death, demanding to tell, and the other, in fear, promises to speak. He explains that their main boss is Kensen, the king of the Qingcheng underground, and then he thinks aloud about Kensen, a famous philanthropist, and admits that the situation has become complicated. At the Qingcheng underground market, a man with a gun demands that the other repeat what he said. At the same time, Kensen, smoking a cigar, is surprised that Jihu is missing and mocks that he has lost track of the poor student. He notified the chief that it was impossible to contact him within an hour and a half, and said that their people had found a house burned to the ground, presumably set on fire by the customer. In addition, he demands that this person be found immediately. The man said that he immediately sent someone to pick up the guest, and the guest noticed that the host place was quite large. In addition, the young man told the boss about a conversation with his father on the topic of 2 million. The boss replied that the money did not matter, since he had already accepted him as a subordinate. They enter the building. One says there's nothing more to add, while the other suggests taking this place home and moving on. In the end, he believes that his father was right about a guy named Yi Lin who cares about his reputation. He is sure that Kenzen's men will not dare to come to the Ji family to catch him. After that, he and another man enter the mansion. A lot of girls in uniform greet him with the words, "Good afternoon, young master." He is surprised to think that this is too much. She believes that everyone strives for wealth, seeing it on themselves. When she stands in stockings and a short skirt, she thinks that life is really very different. The man asked which of them he preferred, promising to arrange service for them in his room. The interlocutor replied that then he would not restrain himself. Yi then refuses the girl's help, but another man supports him and offers an important matter after changing clothes. He asked what something big was, and another replied that they would find out when they got there. Afterwards, one of the men explains to the other that this is Ching Cheng's annual auction, assuming that he is here for the first time. He reports that all the important people from Ching Cheng will gather here. The boss offers to meet them later and leaves to eat. Meanwhile, he grins, convinced that the poor will always remain inexperienced. He stated that he was busy all night and hungry, so he sacrifices his stomach and now has to eat more to compensate. And then, with a spoon in his hand, he answers the question why he is here, addressed to him from the shadows. Liu Yanwei recognized someone, and the other woman asked Nini who it was. At the same time, he wondered why he was constantly bumping into this woman, while the two girls were watching him with surprise and interest. One woman asked another if she had met the boy who controlled the fire. The second replied that he was a coward and suggested that he go somewhere else. In addition, he thinks about the woman's reaction to being Lin Ye. He introduced his boss named Ye Ling to the group of men, explaining that it was Ji Linyu's boss. In addition, one of the men claims that it is more logical to call the other boss. In response, the person who is offered such a title notes that ordinary people cannot be his boss and asks if he knows the level of his boss. He is surprised at level 16 and remembers that Ye Ling's name sounded familiar, as he had ranked first in the novice secret realm. As a result, he urged everyone to calm down and said that he knew how to improve the level by offering help outside the city to successfully pass the exam. The boss is ready to help them level up, but forbids them to leave the city before the exam to prevent help from strong players. One of them then explains that the way to the big exam is out of town and suggests using it to level up, but the other is hesitant due to lack of equipment. He assures that he is ready to help you level up, and another advises you to bid on the necessary equipment at the auction. When one questioned doubtfully, the other replied that the father would support them if they improved on the exam, despite the costs. Auctioneer Ching Ching greeted the guests on behalf of the Treasure Pavilion auction house. He then wished everyone to win the desired items today, while many hands were reaching forward. A woman announces the start of bidding by introducing a scroll with a fire skill for mages and announcing the starting price and bidding rules. Following this, several people name their bets: 510,000, 550,000, and 600,000. A man with red hair greets others. He is called Mr. The other two men look at him with interest. Meanwhile, Zhuge Ni has awakened a fiery talent. Her father spends a lot of money on skill books, and he, as a master of forbidden curses, does not need scrolls. The man told Lin Yu that he was a first-level swordsman and advised him to bid on the auction to save his life. Lin Yu nodded in response, and then he announces a rare Huanglong Ruyi ring with a spiritual attribute and a passive skill, setting a starting price of 2 million and a minimum bet of 100,000. He says that the ring increases the spirit attribute by 30 and will be good for him, while the other asks Lin Yu to bet. At the same time, the young man asked his father to bet on the ring, and he agreed. He made a bid of 8 million for Lin Yu to enter the school and return the equipment to the Ji family after his death. In addition, a crowd of people enters the room, and a voice announces bets of 8 million, repeating them twice. A man with security announced a bid of 10 million, causing a reaction from others. In addition, he asked President Ji how he was doing, and the other was surprised by the presence of Kensen, the king of the underground. One man asks, the other with glasses confirms that it is Kensen. As a result, he believes that he cannot allow himself to be discovered by carefully looking around in the crowd. The man asks Kensen what the group has hurt him. Kensen replies that his people were killed and there is no need to explain the reasons. He then warns Kensen about G's group and reveals the amount of 12 million. He accepts Mr. G's challenge and offers to check who will hold out to the end. When one of the men asked about checking the car at the warehouse, the other confirmed that it belonged to the G family and returned to their villa in the evening. He threatens Group G, warning them not to blame him if he kills their entire family. He then holds out a box with a ring and asks if Yelin likes it. He thanks Uncle Lee. Another asks his father about the stranger, who explains that it is Kensen, the king of the underground, who is trying to become a businessman and interfere in the affairs of the G group. Afterwards, the man warns Uncle G about the unwanted attention to their organization, and Uncle G agrees with him. In the image is the ring of the Dragon Emperor Rui. Increases spiritual attribute by 30 and luck by 10 at the cost of dragon energy. Meanwhile, he says that the ring increases luck and spiritual attribute, promising to help Lin Yu enter a prestigious school, and the two men reply that it is possible to apply without formalities. He admitted that he was tired, and the other thanked the boss for helping with the equipment and offered to choose anyone. And then 3 magic items with a description of their spiritual attributes and ability enhancement effects. He describes a ring, necklace, and bracelets that enhance damage, spiritual power, and healing, and says that the bracelet will help hide the secret of his body. At the same time, he demonstrates a sword and claims that he will be able to use a level 10 spell while the other listens to him. He praises the sword, claiming that with it, they will be invincible in exams when a giant blue creature with red eyes appears. In addition, she's lying in a foam bathtub and says that G's group has spent more than 100 million on equipment and is probably secretly plotting something. The man said that Lu arrived with others and claims that they have information about the wanted man. She asked if Yang Wei and the man were here. In addition, she asks about Ling Ye and asks to wait in the guest room, promising to return soon. She asks Yang Wei if he has any information about Lin Ye while the two are standing at the window. As a result, the woman introduced Nini to investigator Huang, who said that he had information about Ling Ye, but it was bad. He reports that a fire broke out at a farm in Qingcheng with victims. The remains of the fire were found, and they are asking for cooperation in the investigation. After that, she claims that Ling Ye can't be a killer since he once saved her. He asks Nini to calm down, and she tells Juza about Linya, who is able to kill enemies with fire, and asks if she knows another person. When the investigation was carried out, it was revealed that the Ye Lin in question was actually Ling Ye. She tells investigator Huang that Lin is a coward who is afraid of death and is incapable of using hellfire. He then asked the other person for confidence, and she replied that she was the only one who had seen Lin Ye in person and didn't believe that he was such a coward. He claims that the killer is not Ye Ling, thanks Jue for his cooperation, and asks to contact him if there is information, to which she agrees. Afterwards, he tells Lin Yu to hurry up and check the equipment. Lin asks where they are being taken. A woman comes up and offers to conduct practical training, to which the other man agrees. He asked the level, she answered 16. She then agreed to set up a training room for level 20 and below for 100,000 per hour, and he asked for a room for level 40 and below. Meanwhile, he stands in front of a huge crowd and declares that he will settle everything immediately. He stated that the killer was not Ye Ling, thanked Ju and asked to contact him with new information, to which she agreed. And then he stands in front of a huge crowd and promises that he will arrange everything for them. He draws a sword and declares that he can do whatever he wants. At the same time, he activates the power of the Sword of Life using a curse spell, and a powerful light strike hits enemies, after which he approvingly says, "Okay." He suggested trying other spells while holding a sword surrounded by energy. In addition, the boss becomes a little crazy before the exam, and she claims that hard training will definitely bring results. He is tired and goes to rest. The other is interested in payment for damage in the hall, and she replies that compensation is not needed because of the difference in levels. In addition, One man had told Lin Yu that it was time to go, to which he agreed, and the woman was standing at the door. She is standing by the window, covering her mouth with her hands. In the end, he exclaimed, "Heavens!" when he noticed something behind the door. 2 guards stand at the entrance of the G family's residence, guarding the area. After that, one man asks the other what happened to him when he is holding his neck and is in pain. He notices the approaching hands without having time to say anything. When someone shouts, "Ah!" loudly, expressing strong emotions or fright. He asked what was going on outside, sitting at the table. He then warns the owner to flee, the man screamed, clutching his chest. After that, he said that they met again, holding a sharp object in their hands aimed at the person lying in front of him. A man with a gun shouts Kenson's name as he jumps and slashes with his sword, wounding his opponent. Meanwhile, he claims that using a weapon against the awakened is stupid and kicks a lying man in the face. He reports to the boss that he didn't find them, while the boss, with a foot on his head, expresses anger. And then he scolds his subordinates for passing, ordering them to pick up the person lying on the floor. 2 people are walking down the street at night, surrounded by trees and houses, while the sounds of footsteps are heard. At the same time, he asked if the power had been cut off, while the other stared silently at the sky. He stopped abruptly and asked what was going on. Another replied that he smelled blood. In addition, 2 men open the door and see many lifeless bodies, one of them with blood from his mouth, and above the stage there is a warning not to look here. He reported that they had made the wrong house and warned Ling Yu to be careful. In addition, he calls out to Father and Uncle Fu, asking where they are. He hands Lin Yu a note and asks her to take a look. As a result, one reads the letter aloud, the other listens, clenching his fist on a bench by the window. The 2 men read a threatening note. If they want to save their father, they must bring Ye Lin to the underground black market. He then declares his intention to kill Kenson. He orders Lin Yu to take cover while he goes to rescue Uncle G. He insists on killing the enemy himself and saving his father. When he began to speak, he received a blow in the neck and screamed. He comforts his friend and promises to bring Uncle G back safely. Then he lies on the bed, and the other hand reaches out to him. He warned Kenson of his strength and recklessness. An ominous shadow then appears on the wall, and several figures watch it from a distance, sensing the impending threat. 2 guards stand at the door in the underground black market of Qing City. Meanwhile, he lands against a wall and prepares for further action. He hides behind a wall, thinking he made it in time while a group of people are standing at the door. And then one looks ahead, and the other in a mask and glasses is surprised. He asks his brother why he is still hiding in the shadows, pointing at him with a gun among the laser beams. At the same time, he notices infrared night vision cameras and wonders at their technology on the black market, while another suggests going to the boss who has been waiting for a long time. He decides to break in while the 3 come towards him. In addition, one casts a curse spell, and the other notices that the right organ has recovered, so you need to sacrifice the left. The first complains of pain in the kidney. The 3 men followed the boss's order and started shooting at the troubled man. In addition, it falls down, surrounded by purple shadows and flying bullets. An explosion occurs against the background of the night sky. As a result, 2 men with guns look at a bright purple explosion in the sky, surrounded by smoke and the sound of an impact. He activates the fast dance technique and warns that no one should leave, or else his secret will be revealed. He then informs Kenson that his master is there, with shadows and red light in the background. He casts a wind spell and attacks with the opponent's magic blade. When he suddenly jumps, he notices that the opponent is too fast. With a purple glow on his face, he reports that a wind type above level 30 has awakened. He then stands with a sword, and 2 men with weapons warn him that it is dangerous to come alone. He replies that he must catch him alive and will not kill him. He said that he had a sword and the interlocutor lost. Following this, he cast the spells Starfall Trace and Curse Spell Life Sword, summoning a sword and summoning to check how many times he can hit the enemy. He orders them to descend from a tall horse and uses the Dragon Gun wind magic. Meanwhile, he shouts, "First sword!" and strikes with his sword in a fight with his opponent. He attacks, saying that the opponent is fast, and uses the Wind Blade move. and then he summoned a second weapon and attacked with 2 swords in a dynamic battle movement. He assessed the speed of his opponent and offered to scratch him, to which he laughed. At the same time, he confidently assures not to worry and promises to demonstrate his sword skills. They are fighting. One of them shouts, "Third sword!" as he attacks the opponent. In addition, he had cast the spell Fourth Sword, while the other 2 were preparing to attack with their swords. The character names the 5th, 6th, and 7th swords, accompanying this with the sounds of blows. In addition, he says, "Eighth sword," and delivers a powerful blow that knocks the other back. The man turned to his 7th brother. He replied that the 8th was very strong, holding his chest and saying, "I." As a result, he stands over the wounded man, who asks in horror how such a sword technique is possible. He tensely says that the interlocutor does not need to know this information. After that, one wounded the other. He cried out, and the 3rd exclaimed, "Fifth brother," watching what was happening. He accuses the interlocutor of being not a man, but a devil. When he says the word devil, he then confidently points with a finger surrounded by energy. He warned that no one would leave alive, standing with a sword in front of a sitting man and body on the ground in a narrow passage. The explosion then destroys the wall, creating a flood of air and debris. 3 men are fleeing from the fire. One cries out for help, the other claims that he cannot be killed. After that, one climbs the stairs, the other follows with a sword. Their counting can be heard in the air. First sword, second sword. With a sword in his hand, he ordered not to run away and said that he needed to count. In the meantime, he asked, "What?" A dark warrior with an axe warns that no one has come here alone for a long time, and Zaishuchi stands with a sword, preparing for battle. And then he asks what secret the child is hiding, noting that he did not fall even after such injuries. He notices that the axe is heavy and says that whoever puts the axe first will know the truth. At the same time, he threatens his opponent with a sword, stating that he will kill him and then study him. An explosion occurs, destroying the environment, accompanied by the sounds of destruction. In addition, he uses the burning transformation curse spell and the fleeting dance technique, firing a powerful energy shot from his mouth. He stabs into the wall with a sword, the other taunts, asking how much he can endure, sacrificing his life for strength. In addition, a man with a staff attacks an opponent with a sword, while another watches the fight with a weapon in his hands. He attacks another with a sword that deflects his opponent, creating a protective barrier of energy. As a result, he was injured. The level 42 Awaken turned out to be a strong opponent. He mockingly criticizes the Curse Master for using a sword and says that his sword skills are far from perfect. After that, he decides to avoid this situation. He screams in pain after being hit and crashing into a wall. As he leans on the floor, trying to get up among the shattered glass and debris. He admits that sword skills are not enough when fighting a melee expert, clenching his fist and showing a wounded face. He then stands against the wall, wounded and sweaty, repeating the recover spell and saying that he was forced to act. The names of internal organs are depicted on a black background. Following this, the 2 men prepare for battle in a dark room in the rain, with sharp ice peaks visible below. The lightning, cursed spell. Lightning that destroys the world struck the city, causing destruction and terror in the man. Meanwhile, he breaks down the wall, and someone exclaims in amazement that this is impossible. He screams in pain as his body begins to collapse and crumble into pieces. And then he says that his sword skills are weak, but there is lightning, and the other advises to go to the King of Hell, as it is useless to know something. He climbs the stairs, saying that he has sacrificed too many organs and feels dizzy. At the same time, he asked about the intruder below. She replied that nothing could have happened to Jaishuchi there. She offered him to try something delicious, and he replied that she was very bad. He also appears in the midst of the destruction and asks Kensen where Uncle G is. The man in shorts asks the other where Jaishuchi is, while the woman walks away. In addition, he jumps with a weapon in his hands and declares that the opponent is dead, and the next one will be him. He said that many seek to destroy it, but the enemy does not deserve attention. As a result, he screams, trying to break free from the grip, clenching his hand around his neck. He grabbed Kenzan by the throat and warned him to remember the lesson. He then states that he has spent enough time with him and throws the clothes on the floor. He said, "What?" When he saw the other, who was breathing heavily and recovering, he shouted, "You!" and was surprised that he was not dead. He states that he is not done having fun and orders the sacrifice of his left eye by activating the spell Eyes of Eternal Freeze. He is then panicked by a curse spell that completely paralyzed him. He demands that the other tell him where Uncle G is, but he remains silent despite the threats. Following this, he refuses to disclose information under pressure. He screams in pain. His hands turn into something strange and blur. A voice warns that he may lose them. Meanwhile, he stands in front of her in flames, and she with a gun demands to release the tied man, threatening to shoot him. He asks the other about his desire to be righteous, and he is also interested in the exchange of hostages. And then she threatens to shoot, another offers to exchange hostages, and the third refuses the woman's help and demands to leave. She shouts, "Die!" and fires her gun. At the same time, he is breathing heavily, feeling wounded and tired after the battle. The woman yells at Kenzan, and the man warns him not to kill him while he is lying on the floor with a sword. In addition, she is surprised when a man with a sword leads a bound and tormented other into the room. With a sword, he uttered, "Ha!" creating a magic circle with his finger in the air. In addition, the gun was covered in ice, which led her to assume that it was a curse spell. He claims that he has done everything and offers to kill him, and she believes that this woman does not know anything. As a result, one shouts that it's too noisy, and the other calls it a thing in horror. He does not forgive. She asks why she screams while the third person is unconscious. She then accuses Kenzan of murder, and he grabs another man, asking if she's going to kill him. He does not kill women and carries her on his shoulder, inviting her to go further. When in the night city, fiery and blue flames rise above the buildings, creating an atmosphere of destruction and chaos. In the G family's villa, a joyful exclamation rang out. Father has returned. Then he almost lost the patient, who asked why he was crying and assured that the family would be fine as long as he lived. He explained to Ye Ling that he had been unconscious at the time of the incident and asked how he had been rescued. Afterwards, he admitted that he wasn't sure about it and revealed that his friend Lin Ye had saved Uncle G from Kenzan and burned down the black market. The two men discuss an unknown strong man named Ling Yu and decide to focus on preparing for the exam. Meanwhile, Officer Huang and two partners enter the room and report that they suspect him of interfering in a major murder, showing an arrest warrant and forbidding him to leave. He is surprised by the arrival and decides not to resist the arrest to avoid the risk and will go with them temporarily. And then he asks why his boss is being arrested, and the one who is in the hospital promises to find the best lawyer and asks Uncle G to pick him up. The man informed Ningning of the news about Ling Ye and advised her to change her clothes as Officer Huang was waiting for her downstairs. At the same time, he is standing at the door and hears a cough from inside the room. He is surprised that Ye Ling has dealt with Kenzan alone and is waiting for him to ask for help. In addition, the building of the Qing City Investigation Bureau. He sits on a chair in a dark room. Another man enters. The sounds of footsteps and tension are heard. In addition, he refuses to speak until a lawyer arrives. The man in glasses warns the other not to be too self-confident, and he tries to answer, but is interrupted. As a result, the man in the suit demands to indicate the location, and the other in the hood asks in confusion what is meant. He demands the key he received from Kenzan, promising mercy. He then kneels and declares that he does not have the key and warns that he will not give it up if touched. The other, confused, does not understand what key is being referred to. A man in glasses reports that the key is with someone else. He insists that he be taken out of here, promising something in return, when he sharply slapped a man with glasses, calling him a gangster. He asks permission to call, and the other replies that if he had said earlier, he would not have suffered so much. Then he promises to make him answer for everything tenfold. He walks on the asphalt, his shoes sound. Following this, the man with the monocle called him Mr. Ju, and the other demanded that he stop chatting and confirmed that this was exactly what he wanted. A man with an eye patch passes the key to another. he replies that he will not bother him. Meanwhile, he thanks Jugi, reflecting on Kenzen's key and a possible conspiracy. He says he saved me because divulging the secret of immortality would lead to danger. And then he thinks about whether to kill this man, who, in his opinion, knows his secret. He asks the other what immortality was, scratching his head. At the same time, he notices a murderous look in someone's eyes and claims that he is truly immortal. He asked what Ju wanted from him, and he offered to become his student. In addition, he explains that he has little time and wants to take the interlocutor as a student, entrusting important tasks to which he is surprised and asks about the student. He asked again if he could be trusted with an important matter. In addition, the other holding the key took it out again, asking if he had already given it away. One handed the other an ancient sky key, explaining that he had a fake one. He was surprised to hear the name of the key. As a result, when the Heaven's Gate descended, not only monsters appeared, but also 7 ancient artifacts scattered around the world and possessing incredible power. He claims that the ancient sky key is the key to open that door. After that, the man offers Yeling to become his disciple and help with the task. He, knowing his secret, agrees, although he doubts his abilities. The man tells the guy that his future is unlimited and offers him another job. The guy asks what exactly, when he asks to take care of Nini after his death. He awkwardly assured that the owner would live a long life. Then the man said that the relationship can develop slowly. It is more important to get good grades, to which the other agreed and offered to leave. She states that she cannot believe that her father has apprenticed a coward like him. After that, he sits with his arms crossed and invites the other to go and ask him. She calls her father and asks who this man is. He calls her a little princess and wonders why she is angry after returning home. Meanwhile, the man explains that he took the student, the woman is indignant at his danger, and the sitting man asks not to judge harshly and praises the student. She stated that Ling Ye was a joke and accused him of cowardice and lying, adding that even her father had been deceived by him. And then he declares that he is not with him in this house, and the other promises to find the real Lin Ya and take off his mask. He asked the owner if he wanted him to protect her. He replied that no one in Qingqing would dare to touch her, and she was only a little arrogant. At the same time, he announces the upcoming final test and hands over a gift. He talks about the possibilities of illusory skin, and the interlocutor thanks him and calls him a master. In addition, the crowd meets a man with a guitar. One of them says he thought he wouldn't come, but now he's glad to see him. He promises to keep his word. Another talks about accepting Mr. Zhuge as a mentor and settling the incident with Ken Sen, and the woman is outraged by her father's deception. In addition, he rebukes Zhu Geini for slandering his boss without evidence, and she promises to expose Lin Ye in the final test. The bus travels along the road, leaving traces of water or dirt in its wake. As a result, the teacher announced the final test to the students. One of the students urged everyone to work hard for the success of the academy. 2 men shout, "Success!" with their fists raised. After that, several buses lined up in front of a large closed door, from which steam rises. They saw the city gates. One of them noticed that the gate was too high. When he told Lin Yu to follow him according to the plan, Lin Yu agreed and called him the boss. He announced that the gates would open soon, and all candidates must walk 10 kilometers of wilderness for the first test, where they would encounter aggressive demonic creatures. Then the person in front shouts, "Ready!" Smoke spreads in the room. Following this, the 3 enter the arena, and one of them announces that the final test has officially begun. A group of people runs forward. One of them shouts, "Go!" Zrinya. The other declares that he won't be inferior to Ye Ling in the competition. Meanwhile, the 4 are discussing the number of enrollees in Daxia Academy this year, assuming that the number won't exceed 5 like last year. The old man with the beard claims that there will be at least 2 students at Daxia Academy in Qingcheng, and the other man warns him not to be conceited. And then he notices a disgusting smell. The other explains that it is the smell of the corpses of demon beasts. Suddenly, an aggressive creature appears. The 3 men discovered a level 11 lizard demon. One of them warns the others of his danger. At the same time, the man shouts, "Run!" as a huge dragon rushes at them and the rest of the people try to escape. The red-haired man complains about the weakness of the students, and the gray-haired man replies that they are definitely not students of the Ching Cheng Academy. In addition, he shouts, "Let me pass!" as he rushes with his sword at the approaching beast while the other people watch. He strikes with his sword, creating a blue vortex that tears the enemy apart. In addition, one of the men notices the rarity of the sword, while the other notes that the fighter's level and equipment make it easy to defeat the demon, but wonder why it didn't kill him. The man orders Lin Yu to come over and finish the job. Lin Yu, with a sword in his hands, replies that he is already coming. As a result, the group discusses that level 16 of the Forbidden Caster is Lin Yu's tool for gaining experience, and one of them asks if he needs a subordinate. He explained that the experience will be shared in the team as long as it stands in a field with falling birds. After that, she states that she will definitely surpass Yeling this time, expressing determination and challenge. The team killed a werewolf, a skeleton archer, and a chimera, gaining experience for each of them. When he reached the 8th level, he stated that the boss would always be the only one for him, no matter what. He warns that it is too early to rejoice, and says that there are few demon beasts left nearby, so you need to go deeper into the forest. One then asks if level 20 to 30 monsters will be encountered. The other replies that he can cope with level 20, and will run away from level 30. The backdrop is a ruined city. A traditional building rises surrounded by forest, creating a contrast between nature and the urban landscape. Following this, the man with the gray hair thinks that Ye Lin is acting too rashly, and the other reassures that the examiners are already in control of the situation and everything will be fine. A forest under a blue sky with birds conveys the atmosphere of nature. Meanwhile, he runs forward with a sword in his hand, while the other follows him through the forest. They prepare for battle in the forest by growling and making threatening sounds. And then the man warned Lin Yu about the strong beasts, and Lin Yu replied that he valued his life and was not afraid. He says that he can't use the sword skill for long, as it drains him too much while two people are preparing for battle behind him, and someone is flying in the distance. At the same time, the image shows destruction with the inscription, "Forbidden Seal World Ending Thunder." He notices the brutality of killing level 20 beasts, asking if the boss usually kills like this, to which the boss replies that the cruelest is yet to come. In addition, the examiner warns two men standing in front of him in the forest that it is dangerous to leave the test area without permission. They discuss the possible excess of the test zone and agree not to continue. In addition, one of them warned the other to watch his back, surprising the third. He said that he would not fall for the trick and would not leave the test zone, since he has been working as an examiner for 20 years. As a result, the goblin warns the examiner by letting out a roar. They spotted a level 33 goblin hero and warned him to flee. He then fights an orc who insults him, but is hit back. He orders Lin Yu to flee and distract the enemy, but the enemy insists on escaping together. He demands to stop talking and obey. When he reflects that it is difficult to kill a goblin hero without unleashing his power in this place, he casts the sacrifice spell and activates the forbidden move Sudden Dance, preparing to attack. He then warns the boss to be careful and promises to wait ahead, while the other insists that he too run and leave the matter to him. He screams for help. Something appears in his hand. Following this, a huge green monster with red eyes attacks them. An explosion occurs, illuminating the sky with light and fragments. Meanwhile, he muses that it would be better if the other person lost consciousness so as not to reveal himself, and asks why he launched the flare. The ogre warns of the approaching two. The woman explains the situation, and the man asks, "Examine to leave so as not to harm her." And then he agrees to carry the wounded examiner out of the forest. He announces his idea when a huge dark monster approaches them, and two figures in the air prepare to attack. At the same time, he holds the box and says that now is the right time to test the effect of illusory skin. He holds a mask and says the word tear, while another with a bandage on his head looks at her. In addition, he fell into a pit and laughs, saying that the situation is interesting to him. She offers to kill the enemy so as not to affect the final test, and he agrees. In addition, one of the men reports that he is ready to help his colleagues, causing the other to be surprised by his appearance in the forest. He promises to destroy the monster by using the forbidden spell Eternal Arrow. As a result, the character received 220 experience and a symbiotic talisman for killing a level 33 goblin hero. He noticed that the creature could drop an item and added that the chance of items dropping from demon beasts was very low. After that, the green monster receives a blow to the head and flies back, around flashes and silhouettes of watching people. He sharply asked Jake which department the one standing opposite him was from, accusing him of not helping and stealing their loot. When he says that he never leaves his name after good deeds and offers to call himself a kind person, he smiles. He says that after that, he will not be found, creating a glowing circle with his hand. The map then shows the location of Qingcheng, the outskirts of the forest, and the teleportation gate for the final challenge, next to the image of a man with glasses. He is unconscious, and the other sits next to him and says that the illusory skin is good. Following this, he uttered a sound of displeasure as he held a bottle of blue drink in his hands. He explains that the talisman allows two awakened with a difference level of less than 10 to share the experience of killing monsters for 6 hours, and notes that it is like a double experience. In the meantime, he was trapped and heard a cry for help, begging to be saved. He screams for help, running away from an attacker with a staff who attacks him, shouting a battle cry. And then he screams in pain when a glowing projectile crashes into him with force. He saw a boss with a gun in the woods, and another man sitting on the ground next to him. At the same time, one of the researchers is happy for the other and asks about the goblin hero. He replies that the hero was killed by other researchers. He asks Ling Yu not to move his hand, and Ling Yu is surprised, not expecting his boss to be like this. In addition, he squeezes the hand of another person with a tattoo and makes a fluff sound. The monster attacks with an axe. One of the men shouts at the boss to run away. In addition, he grips the hilt of his sword, using the forbidden spell Lifespan to attack approaching enemies. A level 13 soldier named Anubis died. The hero gained 130 experience and activated the symbiosis effect. As a result, he recognized the symbiotic talisman and asked where he got it. One orders the other to kill the monsters by insulting him, and the other makes excuses that there was a mistake and that he is actually heterosexual. After that, he admitted that he was ready, but could not cope with many monsters. 4 fight a werewolf. One screams that level 10 will soon die. When he noticed the enemy's quick attack, he was surprised. The 2 men watch as the other kills the 3 werewolves, who turn into skeletons with a spell. He then learns that he is facing a forbidden spellcaster who took first place in the last test, and doubts whether he wants to die killing monsters. They noticed that he seemed to be recovering, and speculated that the equipment on his wrist was related to it. Afterwards, he cries out for help and runs away, while a huge minotaur with a war mace chases him. 3 run through the forest. One warns of a level 20 minotaur and says that such enemies can kill them instantly. Meanwhile, he warns the fleeing that all the monsters belong to him while he is attacked by several monsters in the forest. He dodges the creature with a sword in his hand, surrounded by blue light. And then he draws his sword, saying the word sheath against the background of falling skeletons and destruction. He claims that the boss is unbeatable in leveling up. At the same time, 2 men view a holographic image of a mythical creature with horns and a sword projected in front of an old building. The man with the beard regrets that the child is a forbidden spellcaster, and the other notes that thanks to him, almost all the monsters were killed, and fewer members were injured. He also shows a fan and begins to explain, saying, "You see..." The group discusses that leaving late is a good thing, because after destroying the monsters, the path will become easier. One of them notices that there seem to be no enemies here. In addition, he reveals that he has destroyed all the monsters and reached level 18, noting that with each level, it becomes more difficult to progress. He stands at the entrance to the portal leading to the final exam area, and hears the announcement of the start of the test. As a result, he abruptly steps on his foot, and cracks appear around him, as if destroying the space. He stands in front of the stairs to the final exam area, watching the rocks flying and thinking about the upcoming test. After that, he notices a lot of people, and another calls him the boss coming up from behind. One praises the boss, and he asks to let him go because of the crowd. When he announces that he has reached level 15, the other tells him to move away from him. She said that she had only climbed 2 levels, but claims that in the final test, everything will be decided by her skills and abilities, as long as he is silent nearby. Several people then land, and one of them loudly calls on all the test takers to gather. The crowd gathered in front of the podium, and one of the speakers demanded silence. Following this, Lin Yuan greets all the participants from Qingcheng and announces the start of the 886th final test as the chief examiner. They report that the forest outside the city is the entrance to the final test, and only survivors of this place can pass it. In the meantime, he explains that the test has 2 parts, a comprehensive assessment and a ring battle. He explained that the comprehensive assessment includes 10 stages of 10 points each, and only those who score 85 points will be able to take part in the tournament. And then he explains that winning a fight in the ring brings 10 points, and a maximum of 150 points determines the best at the end of the final test. He announces to the crowd that the use of special items on the test is prohibited, and violators will be disqualified, presenting the rules of the final test. At the same time, the crowd is lining up in groups of 10 to undergo the comprehensive testing that has just begun. He says it's time for the final test that will seal his fate, standing against a wall, surrounded by electrical discharges. In addition, he said that now he would write his own fate, standing against the background of space with a sword on his back. He stands in the hall with the symbol on the wall and carefully reads the documents in his hands. Also, Su Chengqing apologizes to Chief Examiner Lin for being late. He refused to apologize. She asked about the best examinees. In the end, he notices that Lin Ye's profile has reached level 18 and is ready to enter the Supreme Academy, expressing regret. She claims that the Supreme Academy will accept him despite his status as a banned spellcaster, even if he has an A-class profession. He then stated that if he wasn't a forbidden spellcaster, Qingcheng would get another dragon. She only agreed that it was a pity. A group of people see the test results. Ye Lin has maximum scores and high attributes of strength, agility, and intelligence. When the 3 men discuss the strangeness of the forbidden spellcaster's strength of 480 points, noting that it exceeds the level of the warriors, they assume that he will use attacks in the 3rd stage. It announces the 3rd phase of the comprehensive assessment and encourages participants to use their strongest combat skills. He then says that casting the Thunder Divine Chaos skill will give him away. He decides to use the weakest lightning strike in preparation for the sacrifice. Following this, he casts the forbidden spell, Lightning, that destroys the world, causing a powerful electric shock. She says that the dummy should only deal with attacks below level 25, and asks why everything disappeared. Meanwhile, he is surprised that the kid is only level 18 and the dummy exploded from a single attack. He reports that the apprentice uses forbidden spells on the final test, and the other is surprised that not all strong spells are banned. And then he fights several shadow opponents, deflecting their attacks with a sword and getting wounded. He received the maximum 10 points for the 4th stage of the comprehensive assessment of agility. At the same time, he uses explosive power in battle, and the system rates his result at a maximum of 10 points. Lin received the maximum points in several stages of the comprehensive assessment. In addition, he says that this child uses forbidden spells and will be a miracle if he lives to be 20 years old. One of the men turned to the head of the examiners, Lin, with a question about increasing the level of difficulty of the final stage for the participant. Furthermore, Su believes that the other candidates are more worthy, and Yeling's strength is too risky. He said that it was a pity, looking at the document. As a result, a group of people stands in front of 2 portals with blue flames, from which one person comes out, heading towards them. The young man informs the boss that he has received 96 points and is ready. After that, one of the participants asks the other why he did not receive the maximum points. In response, he explained that the points were deducted for the combat score, while the rest of the participants shared their results. She asks the examiner why she ranks 2nd with the same score as Yeling. When women are outraged by injustice and discrimination due to equal grades, he demands silence and points to look at the big screen, but men are ahead. She fights a demon wolf, and someone notes her skill and marvels at the strength of Yahello, who killed the wolf with a single skill. Then, the man, the woman, and the other man are surprised to report that Yahello killed the demon fire wolf in less than a second while it was floating in the air. He understood why Ju-Ge-Ni was in second place, even though both had received the maximum points. He then asks if there are any more objections to the final test, addressing a group of people. It informs that participants with scores above 85 can rest for half an hour and prepare for the tournament if they have no objections. Meanwhile, the three men are discussing the success of Qingcheng Academy. The first places were taken by Yahello and Ju-Ge-Ni, and Director Su will change the world. The man with the beard reports that the fourth place was taken by Jiling Yu from Qingcheng Academy. And then, one man warns Su not to rejoice prematurely because of the tournament. Another doubts Luo Jun's abilities against a level 18 spellcaster, and a third assures that anything is possible. She approached him, who was standing with a weapon in a dark place. At the same time, she stated that she would not lose to him in the tournament, standing with her back to him, and he looks away with a serious expression on his face. He thinks what's wrong with her now. In addition, he explains the rules of the tournament, where participants with the sum of serial numbers 104 fight against each other, and victory brings 10 points and advancement to the next round. He left. The other wished him to give his best. In addition, the instructor advises Anna to surrender before the battle begins. She declares that she will not give up and calls for a fight, and he praises her courage, noting that people with a score above 85 are extraordinary. As a result, it concentrates, causing electrical energy between the fingers, preparing for action. The four men stare at a bright blue flash, waiting for things to unfold. After that, she and he see a glowing silhouette break through the cracks in space, and a hand reaches for it through the rift. He warned Yahello that killing during the tournament was forbidden and threatened with disqualification. When he confessed that he didn't want to kill her, but he had to force her to surrender. She cries and says it's too scary, after which she falls to the floor. They then discuss how someone made a beautiful woman cry, and one of them admits that he thought crying out of fear was just an exaggeration and not an excuse. He adjusted his glasses and said that his classmate just needed to give up. After that, the participant number 18, Yahello, having played the first round and having played 10 balls, was able to stand on the maiden square. He noted that it was a pity and said that he would look at other stages. Meanwhile, she confidently declares that it is impossible to defeat her, holding a burning book in her hands against the background of many small figures. He taunts his opponent with a weapon in his hand and asks how he dared to fight him. And then he says that he never overwhelmed someone because of the difference in levels while holding a sword in his hands. The winners with the numbers 1, 29, 79, and 12 have been announced. At the same time, the three stand in front of a huge column, and one of them announces the start of the second round of the tournament. He warns that the situation could become difficult if his opponent were in the place of the interlocutor. In addition, Chen Cheng-chen confidently declares that he will still win the battle by standing with swords around him and holding one in his hand. He unsheathes his sword, reflecting on his level 11 opponent and his unique skill. We must not relax our vigilance. In addition, he raises his hand and declares surrender, and the other reacts in surprise. He has difficulty pronouncing, "What?" In the end, he asks if the other didn't say that he would win. He assures that he will win and will not forget to take revenge, promising a meeting in the future. After that, he announces that the number 18 participant, Yahello, won the second round and received 10 extra points. The crowd discusses that he won without a fight. One of them explains that it is not worth risking one's life against a short-lived forbidden spellcaster. When he passed the exam, she announced that Yahello had won the third round and had received 10 points. He shouts that he did not have time to do anything, and the other has already surrendered. The three men then discuss the use of the forbidden skill by one of them, who won 3 rounds in a row, questioning the difficulty of the final test and the success of this participant. In the image, fast-moving objects are accompanied by sounds, creating the feeling of rapid movement or attack. Following this, the blade collided with another weapon, causing sparks and a loud impact sound. Wang Zhengguang and Luo Jun attack with high skill using weapons. Meanwhile, one of them says that Law will fall into the group of losers, and the other replies that he is not capable enough for this. The three men discuss Wang Zhengguang's strength and skill, acknowledging his superiority and level. And then he asked Master Su who he thought would win, to which she replied, Luo Jun. He unleashes a Shadow Cloud Pierce attack towards the enemy. At the same time, he struck with 2 axes, screaming in pain. He reveals that Yelin was skipped in the 5th round, and the other complains that he was missed again, calling it boring. In addition, he said, "What?" Зрение, поднимая руку к лбу. He reports that Ling Yu is fighting Zhuge Ni in this round. Besides, she reads the book and says that she doesn't understand what Ling Yu gave to make her serve him. He claims that this is his boss and warns that revealing his identity would be a mistake. Eventually, he realized that her fire elemental spells were instantaneous. He jumps with a sword, causing explosions. After that, he considers himself a melee fighter, and she considers himself a ranged fighter, and he needs to avoid the blow. She challenges the man with the sword, offering to test how many times he can dodge. When he notices the sudden appearance of a huge fiery whirlwind that rapidly rises to the sky. Unable to dodge, he attacked the enemy by raising his weapon. Then he floats in the air among flying rocks, and a cloud of dust explodes near the wall. He is breathing heavily and declares that he will fight. Following this, she reads from a book, summoning fire, and calls someone an idiot. She floats in the air, surrounded by flames, and orders you to surrender immediately. Meanwhile, he stands with a sword against the background of fire waves. He threatens retribution to those who underestimate him, and she thinks he is too self-confident while the fiery energy burns between them. Back then, he stated that Lin Yu was not that woman's rival while watching the fiery vortex around him. He believes that Jiling Yu will lose, and she orders the examiners to prepare for rescue. At the same time, she yells at the figure on fire, blaming it. She screams that he has gone mad as he falls with a bright light behind him, holding a book. In addition, he warns and attacks the enemy with a red cloak with a sword. He warned that he could be provoked, to which she replied that it was not his boss. In addition, he shouts Ling Yu's name, rushing towards her as she stands motionless against the falling rocks. He urges the medics to hurry, pointing forward while the other stands next to a determined expression. In the end, he promises to protect Lin Yu's heart with the yin-yang bracelet while she lies unconscious. She admitted that she didn't know he would go that far, and he replied that he understood it wasn't her fault. After that, the two carry a stretcher with the wounded, and the one standing next to him asks the boss to give his best. In response, he praises Lin Yu for his good work. The quarterfinal fights between Zhuge Ni and Lin Linling, as well as Ye Ling and Luo Jun, are voicing the top scorer. When she asked Director Su if he thought Luo Jun would win, he replied that he was confident in the genius from the Yukai Academy and was waiting for a new best player. Two men discuss the chances of a tournament participant against a level 18 spellcaster, doubting that he will be able to use forbidden spells without risking his life. He then stated that he would find out who would have the last laugh and demanded that the argument end as the round began. He says with his staff that he will finally be able to fight Ye Lin. Following this, he said that he sees his opponent as the only competitor and will become the top scorer if he wins, to which he replied with a restrained question. He attacks with a weapon, ordering Ye Lin to kneel down and beg for mercy.